A low-cut blouse bearing your midriff, a short skirt exposing most of your leg, baggy jeans with an oversized shirt. Intentionally or unintentionally, the clothing that we wear sends out a message. You choose whether it's a positive or negative message. Today I will discuss with you the idea of communicating through clothing. You may or may not even think of what kind of message people are retrieving from you based solely on what you're wearing. By no means do I have any formal education in fashion. I just like to think of myself as a self-proclaimed fashionista because of my love for fashion. On our brief journey through the idea of communicating through clothing, we will look at social class, stereotypes, and verbal versus non-verbal communication. First, let's start by exploring our social class and the effects of communicating through clothing, our social class, to the world. Clothing is an aspect of our physical appearance which has a great deal of social significance. Each society has an unspoken or unwritten dress code that's just simply understood. In many societies, people of high social status reserve special items of clothing to display their high social status. That's the way they communicate their ranking on the social totem pole. In our country, we are not subject to restrictions on what to wear, as people in China once were before the establishment of the Republic. The emperor used to be the only person who could wear yellow. In modern societies such as America, we are not placed under those certain restrictions by law. We are only restricted by the high cost of the premier designer labels, which keep the lower status people separate from the higher status people simply because the lower class can afford the expensive garments. Now let's take a look at the stereotypical messages our clothing sends to others. Stereotypes are powerful and omnipresent. We can't escape being put into stereotypes, and we can't escape putting people into stereotypes. If a young man were to walk into a high-end jewelry store wearing baggy jeans, an oversized shirt, a bandana hanging out of his pocket, a hat backwards, he may be perceived as a robber because that's the association that we put with robbers. The stereotypical message we associate with gangbangers. People that wear that sort of attire, period, we may look at as being dangerous. Although the outfit that he's wearing could cause us dismay or even frighten us, that could just be simply his comfort zone. But it's the message that his clothes are sending to everyone else around him. On the other hand, we may see a young woman provocatively dressed. Lots of cleavage out, short skirt, lots of legs bared, and we may put her into a promiscuous stereotype, which could be totally false. Maybe she's just wanting to feel sexy. It's just funny how we let our minds make these prejudgments by someone else, putting them into stereotypes simply because of what they're wearing. We're all guilty of it. Lastly, let's explore verbal versus nonverbal communication. According to Michelle Sterling, founder of a global image group, verbal impact only accounts for 7% of our overall message. The way you dress plays a vital part in how listeners receive and take in what you're saying to them. Clothing becomes a tool to how you are treated and how others react to you. With that being said, a stronger message comes from your attire than your actual verbal message, which will determine the way people perceive you. This is definitely where the phrase, "you can say everything without saying anything," comes into direct play. During our brief journey, we have explored the idea of communicating through clothing. We explored the idea of communicating to the world, our social class, through clothing. We explored the stereotypes we are placed in due to our clothing, and we also explored the results of nonverbal versus verbal communication solely based on the way we're dressed. Although we may not have a plan every day when we get dressed as how we want to be perceived by others, remember your clothing is sending out a message. You choose whether it's a positive or negative message. Thank you.